Where did they get all those San Antonio Spurs rumors?
Go Spurs, go! 'Cause the Giants stay!
What is up, San Antonio Spurs fans? Welcome to TSR Sports. Hope you're having a great weekend. I came across an article late last night from Pounding the Rock that really addresses some of the big rumors that are going around this week. And I was like, you know what? I like some of the things they had to say. I'm going to highlight some of those things and share with you right now. First up, the Spurs are rumored to be interested in Darius Garland. How serious do you think the interest is, and how much would you be willing to give up on a trade? If I were the Spurs, Dubinsky says, if I were the Spurs, I'd be concerned about Garland's high salary versus availability. He has averaged just 61 games per season and has yet to appear in 70 games in his 5 years in the NBA. That's very alarming. Hasn't even played in 70 once. And yet he is owed $163 million across the next 4 years. That is a huge salary commitment to a good player, and certainly would be an upgrade at point guard. But $163 million to a player that can't stay on the court? That is a major concern, so I agree with her right there. Moving right along, Barrington has to say, the timing isn't right for that for the 2024-25 season, when they'll still be in the early stages of rebuild, essentially saying, hey, let's not rush the rebuild, let's do it right, like let's say the Oklahoma City Thunder are doing. Does Garland coming in really make us a contender right away? No. Makes us better? I don't think he makes us that much better, so I agree with that. Gomez has to say, using too many assets on someone who hasn't shown the ability to be the second best player on a contender seems foolish right now. We have a lot of draft capital. We may have too much draft capital. That being said, we don't want to waste that draft capital and rush to get the wrong guy. And I think Darius Garland at this moment in time would not be the right guy. Closing up, Wilco has to say, if Pop in the front office is going to spend some of their considerable draft capital to bring in some established talent, then I'd expect for that player to have fewer than 3 considerable negatives. Oh my. Garland is short, is often injured, and is expensive. I can't argue with any of those points. We've already talked about the injury and the cost. I see a lot of folks in the channel comment that Trey Jones is too short. Trae Young is too short. Then you shouldn't be all right with Darius Garland. Guess what? He's 6'1". Just saying. So, yes, there's a lot of Darius Garland rumors swirling around. Would I want him? And if we were getting him for a bag of chips and a ham sandwich, sure, fine. But I have a feeling Cleveland's going to want a whole lot in return. And no, I'm on a no on this one. Up next, we've talked about this a little bit, but I'm going to get Pounding the Rocks share their opinion with us. The Spurs have been linked to Stephon Castle. Do you think he's a good target with one of the top 8 picks? And I've already said on record, if we could get him at 8, I'm good. See what they have to say. From what I've seen and read, he fits everything the Spurs love in a player. The only issue is his shooting, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tired of the Spurs drafting non-shooters. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. I don't even know what to say. Yeah, I'm thinking Jeremy Sohan immediately comes to mind. Not a shooter. And some other guys who haven't lived up to the hype. Malachi Branham is supposed to be a shooter, hasn't turned into one quite yet. Blake Wesley's a non-shooter. I'm not going to start going through the whole recent memory of draft picks. You know who they are. Gomez has to say, everything I've seen from Castle suggests he would be a great addition, especially if he's there at 8. Hey, great minds think alike. Defensive versatility and secondary playmaking are things the Spurs are lacking at guard, and Castle should help fix those issues. Yes. Would love to get him at 8. I honestly don't think he's going to be available at 8. Stranger things have happened, so fingers crossed. And just talking about trading Keldon so much. Let's get into it. The Spurs are rumored to be willing to listen to offers about Keldon Johnson. 3rd year in a row, I feel like that we've done something like this on a video here. How likely do you think a Keldon trade is, and what's a deal you'd make involving him? Dubinsky has to say, I have said from the outset that the Spurs need to have a high asking price for him because he brings some intangibles that can't be replaced, and he's on a steal of a deal. His contract shrinks over the life of it. I think it finishes off the last 2 years at like 17 to 18 million instead of going up. It actually goes down. So yes, he's on a great contract. I've also said Keldon brings things to the team that you can't quite see on the court. And Barrington and I think Gomez support that. He's a player that's much more important to the Spurs than he would be to any other team. Even though he didn't have a great year last season, he's super important to the locker room. We've talked about that. And last but not least, Gomez says the Spurs are in a weird spot with Johnson because he's in a fantastic contract, brings leadership, and can actually play and contribute. But he might not fit long term because he doesn't bring consistent shooting and defense. And those are certainly the negatives. And look, I'm a Johnson fan. You guys, I have 2 Johnson jerseys. I just love the Johnson. That's going to get clipped, and I'm going to hate saying that. Anyway, yes, his defense is not up to par, and his shooting has been incredibly inconsistent his entire NBA career. And that frustrates me the most because I see flashes of greatness. I see flashes of, hey, that's a guy that could maybe be an all-star someday, be a leader on the team. And then I'll see a string of 6 or 7 games where he just can't get it done. And I don't know how to fix that. Obviously, the Spurs don't know how yet either because it hasn't happened. I like him to stay on the team. If he eventually gets traded, I understand. It just sucks that every year, a guy that does so much for the community and seems to just, really love San Antonio and being there just constantly there's a trade. First one to go is always Keldon. We're not done yet, though. We're done with pounding the rock. But I found something else this week, and I'm sure you guys have seen this as well. This is all over the place. So this right here, the plot thickens. NBA draft candidate Tristan Newton of UConn became the subject of a viral post after NBA fans mistook him for Cavs guard Darius Garland posing in Spurs gear. Earlier, Newton had posted this selfie on Instagram but quickly deleted it. But why? Is that Tristan Newton? Is that Darius Garland? I think that's Newton. I don't know, but this has obviously led to rumors that Tristan Newton wants to be drafted in the second round by the San Antonio Spurs. Could the Spurs draft 2 UConn players, Stephon Castle and Darius Garland? Is Stephon Castle, and I read this on a website this weekend, I don't know which website, but I know some fans are kind of soured on the fact they said, I don't want to be drafted by a team with an established point guard. I want to go to a team that, needs one. Is that a subtle way of him wanting to come to the San Antonio Spurs? I can't even comprehend my girlfriend's reaction draft week that the Spurs draft 1 but not 2 UConn players. She would go absolutely bonkers, and the Spurs would by far be her favorite NBA franchise ever. That being said, all this doesn't matter until it actually happens. I'm covering a little bit more rumors than I normally do this year. The Spurs, though, are in more rumors this year than they've ever been. I think I've even seen some things lately about Lauri Markkanen. I don't think he's leaving the Jazz. That's another player with a big contract and an injury history would pass. It's a great time to be a Spurs fan, as I always say, but man, it's a little confusing because we just don't know what's the one sure thing we know is Wemby. Everybody else? Seriously, I love this team. I love the players on the roster, but there's only one player that's bulletproof right now, and that's Wemby. Even Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan. If the Spurs can make the move for the right player for the right price, I think they would be traded. Wemby is the guy, and the Spurs are going to build around him. And whoever doesn't fit, I don't care who you are, gone. So we'll keep an eye on everything that's going to happen. 3 weeks until the draft. Oh my goodness, it feels like forever, doesn't it, Spurs fans? But it's going to be a lot of fun, and if they make a big trade, I'll try to get on it right away. That being said, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit the thumbs up. Drop a comment down below. All these rumors we talked about with Stephon Castle, Keldon Johnson, Darius Garland, and Tristan Newton, do you think any of them will happen, or they're all just rumor mill stuff, that clickbait nonsense to get people interested, but none of them are going to happen? And subscribe, of course, to join our awesome San Antonio Spurs community. Thank you very much. Hope you have a great weekend, and as always, go Spurs, go.
And then you makes it to Wemby.